has come, and the land is dark, and the moon is the only light we'll see. Oh, I won't be afraid, no, I won't be afraid, just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me, oh, stand by me, oh, stand by me, stand by me. If the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, or the mountain should crumble to the sea, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. Darling, darling, stand by me, oh, stand by me, oh, stand by me, stand by me. Stand by me, stand by me. Whenever you're in trouble, won't you stand by me? Oh, stand by me, oh, stand by me, stand by me. Stand by me, stand by me. Stand by me, stand by me.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us for one compelling Ithaca story, Try 2, 2020 in Review, to benefit the United Way of Tompkins County. Thanks to everyone for their patience off Try 1's live tech challenges, and in recent days, with the help of our friends at Well Said Media, we have recorded our friends and colleagues whom you'll hear from today. My name is Gary Stewart. I've been fortunate enough to call Ithaca my home for almost 30 years, and to have the opportunity to work with and for many of our diverse and resilient communities, several of which are led by colleagues with us this afternoon. The song that just ended, Stand By Me, was sung by Naomi Summers and Rick Manning at the 2020 Chamber of Commerce Awards ceremony. It reflects in part how community members and organizations have supported and stood with each other during the pandemic. So too has the United Way's Community Care Fund that is helping to meet many local needs heightened by COVID-19. The Community Care Fund supports 50 local human service agencies and more than 80 programs, providing resources and services to friends and neighbors countywide. If you are able to contribute to the fund, it would be appreciated. We have a great roster of local leaders who will share some brief stories with us today, and we'll go alphabetical, except for our compelling ending when United Way President James Brown will wrap us up. I'm so grateful to these very busy leaders for both their time previously and again today during one compelling Ithaca story, Try 2. And to our viewers, thanks for taking a few minutes of your time to hear a few compelling Ithaca stories from Lavelle Brown, Ithaca City School District Superintendent, Shirley Cayato, Ithaca College President, Greg Hartz, Tompkins Trust President and CEO, Leslie McBean Claiborne, GAC Director and Tompkins County Legislature Chairwoman, Arenthia Montague, Tompkins Cortland Community College President, Savante Myrick, City of Ithaca Mayor, Cornell University President Martha Pollack, Jennifer Tavares, Tompkins County Chamber of Commerce President and CEO, and finally, United Way President and CEO James Brown. Thanks for watching today and for your support of United Way of Tompkins County. Now let's hear some compelling Ithaca stories.
Hello, my name is Louvel Brown, and I've had the honor and privilege of serving as superintendent of schools for the last decade. And thank you, United Way, for this opportunity to reflect on the year that was 2020. Yes, I'm Louvel Brown, but where I'm from, and folks know I talk often about where I'm from. That road in Central Virginia, I'm Bobby and Lucille's son. And, this year, I'm finally understanding all the lessons that I was taught on that dirt road in Virginia, and particularly by my mother, who would always stress the need for love. You see, this year, back in March at the beginning of the pandemic, I really lost my mother. And I've had to think about, reflect on all of the lessons she's taught me as we've attempted to navigate the challenges facing us as school leaders, community members, other organizational leaders in our community. See, we've needed love more than ever. We've needed to be patient, honest, forgiving. We've needed to be committed in ways that we never were asked to do before. And yes, I've had to develop a level of peace and understanding of love and access a level of peace that I didn't know I could. We've gotten through this together because we've loved one another. And I will go so far as to say over the last decade, this community has loved me like my mama loved me. And love is not always a love fest. It's not always emotional, it's not always smiling, it's not always happy. It looks like us having hard conversations, calling one another out on our blind spots, being patient and forgiving when we make mistakes, being committed, and in my case, being committed to the young people of this community and doing whatever it takes to provide them excellent teaching and learning experiences, whether in person or virtual. It looks like you taking a chance, trusting a young dude from the South to come up a decade ago when I was much taller and with a whole lot of hair, trusting me with your babies, with your school district, and to be a leader in this amazing community. Thanks for helping me develop a deeper understanding of love. Thank you for loving me. And this year, please know, this year pushed me to access it in ways that I didn't know was possible. It's been an honor. Thank you.
I'm honored to be here today to lend my voice in support of the United Way and in support of this community as we all seek to turn the page of what has truly been an incredibly difficult year. But I'll be honest, it's hard for me to have perspective on 2020 as if the book has closed or as if the moment is over. We're all very much still living this. On Wednesday, January 6th, the United States hit a record number of COVID deaths that still continue to grow. And on Wednesday, we saw a horrible escalation of racial unrest that not only led to a mob desecrating our Capitol building and violating our democracy, but also provided a crystal clear illustration of how the rage and entitlement of white privilege and supremacy was unleashed when it gets threatened. We've all absorbed what happened in many different ways. On the Thursday after the attack, Ithaca College held an open space for members of our community to process what we were feeling and thinking. It broke my heart to hear how this riot firsthand and all that's gone on over the past year is having a lasting and personal impact on our students and how they see their place in the world. But in that moment, I also was reminded of just how resilient our students are and how in their resilience, all of us can find strength and hope. One of my practices as president at IC is to hold regular open office hours for students. Last semester, in the thick of COVID and the Black Lives Matter protests, I connected with our students individually quite a bit. They told me how they've experienced over the past year, how all of that has really cultivated into their willingness to be more vulnerable, to feel a real sense of gratitude, and to have a sense of clarity and purpose. They told me how motivated they've been by the obstacles they've overcome and how they're taking what they've learned about themselves to inform the next steps in their education, in their career paths, and in their lives. And so when I think about the past year and the past couple of weeks, I find myself thinking about the capacity to trust in the goodness of our shared humanity, for us to find hope and to have faith that leaning into this dark time will lead us into the light. My deepest thanks to the United Way and to James Brown and his team for the transformative work that you do for our community and region. Thanks for leading us into the light.
Thanks, Gary, and thanks to all the participants for coming together today to bring some good out of what would otherwise be a pretty challenging year. Our efforts today will go to help the United Way and James Brown and the fabulous work that they do year-round, and I hope that if you're not a supporter of the United Way now, you will be very soon. Our charge for today was to bring forth one compelling story from the last year, and I kept finding myself thinking about the impact of the pandemic. And it caused me to think about COVID in the past tense, and that was pretty exciting. I hope we're all looking at COVID in the rearview mirror very soon. But for me, I think the great takeaway here was the realization of just how fragile our systems and our society really are. Things that we would otherwise take for granted, things like a simple trip to the grocery store has become a big deal. And I don't know about you, but I kind of look forward to my trip to Wegmans these days. I don't get out very much, and it's a pretty stark, I think, realization around just how different our lives are. Access to healthcare is something we took for granted before, and I think we've learned that the system can be stressed, and that access could potentially not be there when we need it. Getting together with family and friends, a simple Thanksgiving get-together, has become a very difficult decision. Whether or not we should meet our new grandchild and risk spreading the COVID virus is a stressful decision, whereas before we wouldn't think anything about these things. In a message recently to our Tompkins team, I thanked them for their great work in serving customers over the last year and during some really pretty challenging times. And I asked them to think back a year. And if in January of last year, anyone had suggested that we would be spending the rest of the year figuring out how to serve customers from as far away from them as possible and asking them to stay as far away from each other as possible, how to get our work done from our bedrooms and our dining room tables, while kids learned how to learn their school lessons over the internet, not being able to go to a restaurant and fighting over the last roll of toilet paper on the shelves. And maybe my favorite in our industry, figuring out a policy that actually requires people to put a mask on to come into the bank. Whereas prior to the pandemic, entering a bank with a mask on would usually result in a visit from the police. If you'd suggested these things, anyone would have said you were really crazy. But here we are. And I think the really compelling message, though, is also the lessons we've had around our ability to overcome these huge challenges when we work together to do it. The remarkable resilience of people, the creativity and ingenuity, the resolve and the inherent good in people is remarkable. Who will ever forget the pictures of the healthcare workers leaving Cayuga Medical Center for New York City back at the beginning of the pandemic to go help people that they had no connection with. The example of Cayuga Health System, our county health department, Cornell, and other organizations coming together to figure out a process to manage this pandemic in a way that's become a model for the rest of the nation. And that was done through collaborative efforts. We have a lot to do, clearly. There's work to be done in the arenas of social justice and inclusion. We have tremendous challenges in our nation to come together to fix the world's problems. But I'm inspired to think that we know that we can do these things when we choose to do it. I miss seeing all of you. I look forward to seeing all of you in person, I hope very, very soon. We're all very tired of Zoom, but we need to hang in there just a little bit longer. And I think in the meantime, maybe we should all see if we can find a mug like the one Jason Molino had at the town hall meeting last week. The mug read, "You're on mute." Be safe, everyone. Take care of each other, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Hi, everyone. I'm Leslyn McBean Claiborne, Chairwoman of the Tompkins County Legislature and Executive Director of the Greater Ithaca Activities Center, known to most people as GIAC. Happy New Year to you all. 2020 has been quite the year, to say the least. So when I think of one compelling story in reviewing 2020, it's been interesting. And it was hard to think of one story, but I'll tell you what came to mind for me. Just the bigotry and racism and hurt that came about because of this pandemic, targeted at Asian Americans in particular. So let me tell you a couple of little stories. I was in one of our larger grocery stores at the start of the pandemic when things were shutting down. In there with my mask, all the people with masks on, and there was an Asian woman in there. She had her mask and she started coughing. And people in the store are literally trying to chase her out of the store. These were patrons, not the workers of the store, trying to chase her out of the store because she was coughing and because of what they believed and then, the rhetoric about who's responsible for this disease. It was awful. They were rude. I intervened. We talked some. And I realized even in talking at that time, I was trying to suppress my cough. You're under your mask and you go trying not to say out loud so people don't look at you sideways, give you the side eye, or chase you out of the store. The woman did leave the store. But we began to talk to people about not targeting folks and not attributing this to anyone and not judging people and treating people kindly because it could happen to any one of us. And then here comes a redeeming story. Smaller grocery store here in the community. And we went in, my husband, and again, there's someone in the store who is going off about, to the customers in the store who were Asian about their faults that the coronavirus is here. And the clerk who was working nicely looked at that person and asked them to leave. The person who was making all the comments and said, "I will not serve you in this store. When you behave in this manner, that's discriminatory, that's rude, and that's disrespectful." That was such an uplifting moment when my husband shared with me what happened. We started using that store much more. We started going there and buying basic stuff much more just because of the stance that clerk took. And the Asian folks who were in the store shopping, my understanding is that they felt supported, validated, and as if they belonged. That's my compelling story. We got to look out for each other. The only way we can get through this, and it's still raging, this pandemic, and go into 2021 being successful and come out on the other end stronger, is by being caring and respectful for each other. Thank you all for letting me share these stories. Thank you, United Way. We encourage you to support United Way that's been there for our community, the people who have been feeling the strain, especially those who have already been in poverty. Thank you, United Way. As a United Way agency, GIAC knows what difference the funding we get from United Way makes to the people who we serve, many of whom fall into that marginalized category. So thank you for supporting us. Thank you for digging a little deeper and giving to United Way. Thanks, take care, and again, all the best in 2021.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Orinthia Montague, and I'm the president of Tompkins Cortland Community College. On behalf of TC3, I'd like to give a heartfelt thank you to the United Way of Tompkins County for the work that you're doing to better the life of every Tompkins County resident. That work is invaluable. 2020 was a difficult year with an attack on civil liberties and the rights of individuals. But as we look forward to 2021, we are encouraged that we have leadership that will represent every citizen across our great nation. America is a great place. As an immigrant to this country, I can attest to that. I have firm belief in all of my neighbors, colleagues, friends, co-workers, that we can stand together and unite for the betterment of all of our society. Looking ahead for 2021, last year we had the United Way fundraiser at Cultivar, at which time I was able to utilize my superior bartending skills. Thank you, James. I want to challenge you again for another United Way fundraiser. And this year I'm thinking perhaps a lip sync karaoke. So James, let's see what you have for this year. And may we continue to raise funds in support of your great work. Thank you.
Mothers know best. My mother especially is about the smartest person I know. I mean, she helped guide all four of us through a turbulent start to what is now, relatively successful and relatively well-adjusted adulthoods. And so I should have known back in December when I opened a package in the mail from my mother, and inside were 4 masks. I said, "Well, Mom, what are these masks for?" And she said, "There's a virus, a new virus. It's on the other part of the world right now, but these are just in case." And I thought to myself, geez, Mom, masks. Can you imagine if I walked down the street wearing a mask? People would look at me so funny. And as in so many other ways, she was right. This community, our city, the city I love, changed a lot this year. And for me, there were a lot of personal changes. 2 of those personal changes are that 2 members of my family, my mother and my brother, moved here to Ithaca to be closer. And that was a lovely thing and sort of an intimidating thing. I don't know if you can imagine what it's like to have a family that you love and then a family that you choose, which is what Ithaca was when I came here to go to school and decided to never leave. this was a family of my choosing. This was the home that I wanted. And my mother and my family are not strangers to this community. Of course, they visited me often. They helped me get elected every election season, coming to knock on doors. But to move here is a different level of commitment, to be here full time. And it came with a fair amount of nervousness. In part because I don't know if this works the same for you, but you ever think your house is clean until your mom comes to visit? And then you start to notice, oh no, look at those water spots over there. And oh no, I didn't vacuum the carpet this week. And oh, there's dishes in the sink. Imagine that, but for a whole city, where you think you're doing a good job until your mom comes to visit. And you can get quite nervous. I mean, there's still so much work for us to do here in Ithaca to make housing more affordable, to fix up our infrastructure, to create a more just economy that gives everybody the opportunity to thrive and prosper. And to have your mom as a constituent is next level stress and pressure. But here's what happened. My mom took a series of jobs here that will get you familiar with our community just about faster than anything else. First, she worked for the census, something she's done before, going door to door as an enumerator, talking with students on East Hill and South Hill, permanent residents in the North Side, South Side, knocking on doors in West Hill, all over our community, as if she herself was running for office, meeting people, doing the census bit, but also hearing what they were worried about, concerned about. She's also a package carrier now. She's working to safeguard and protect all of our health alongside the other heroes that are doing contact tracing for Tompkins County and for New York State. And so every day she talks to more people than I do. And through her eyes, I have seen what our community is like anew, especially in an emergency. Since she moved here, she's watched not just me start wearing masks, but an entire city decide, at a time when all across the country there's much skepticism, an entire city decide, if it means taking care of other people, we will cover our faces in public places. She watched as unasked for, unsolicited, dozens of people from the public sector and the private sector stepped up to make donations to our youth services at GIAC and the Youth Bureau to help reopen our pool, reopen our summer programming at the worst moment of our economic collapse in 2020. What she didn't see, but she heard me talk about with anger and concern and fear in my voice, was what we had to do in furloughing almost 100 employees in the city of Ithaca. And how those employees, to a person, even though they were worried about the future of their jobs and worried about what it meant for their families and for their ability to pay their bills, when I was delivering the bad news, their primary concern was for the people they serve. Their questions were, what will my program participants do next month if my program's not open? And the joy is we brought all of those employees back to work, not just, again, the joy of knowing that you'll be able to provide for your families with steady, reliable income, but the joy of being able to help these participants. She talked to business owners who are still able to hold on to their small businesses because the Tompkins Trust Company went above and beyond, figuring out flexible and innovative and customer service-oriented ways to administer the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Act. All over this community this year, we've been tested. And in an emergency, you can look out for yourself or you can look out for other people. And I am inspired by everything that you did, everything that you've done in 2020 and before, to build a community that's resilient, that's inclusive, that's welcoming. that welcomed my mother, that welcomed me and my family, and has built a home that accepts somebody who is so eager and willing to serve that she will, in her 60s, take a job, carrying packages, knocking on doors for the census, and calling to check on our health as a contact tracer. For a lot of people in this country, these are dark days and trying times. And for myself, is no exception. I've learned a lot about who I am personally. I learned a lot about my failings, that I'm not a good person just because I claim to be or because I want to be. That you're only a good person if you do good things, and if you don't do good things for people, you need to start. And that's a lesson that my mother has taught me, but it's a lesson that you've taught me as well, all the people of Ithaca. So I remain very hopeful. I remain very confident that our best days are ahead of us, that there's nothing wrong with our city that can't be fixed by what's right in our city. And I so look forward to working alongside all of you to build a better, safer, and healthier Ithaca for my family and yours. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Gary. One of the things it's our job to do as an academic institution is to find new knowledge and new ways of doing things. If there's one good thing we can say about 2020, it's that it forced us to find new ways to do just about everything. And if there are two good things, the second good thing we can say about 2020 is that it gave us a new appreciation of just how important our community and our human connections really are to all of our lives. Nothing about 2020 was business as usual, and I think we've all gotten kind of sick of the word unprecedented. But I want to take my few minutes today to appreciate some of the new precedents and the new connections we made in 2020, the good things that might not have happened if we had had a more ordinary year. In a year in which we were forced to be apart, we rediscovered just how important it was for us as a community to be together, even when we couldn't be together physically. We've set a new precedent of saying that, yes, the Cornell community really does exist past the borders of our campus. And no matter where in the world you may be, you're still a part of that community, whether you're a student, a staff member, faculty, family, or alumni. We've embraced remote working and remote learning, breaking down barriers that otherwise might not have fallen for years. And from sharing lectures and concerts to sharing the responsibility for public health, we've drawn closer to the Tompkins County community than ever before. We've built and strengthened connections with the Tompkins County Health Department and the Cayuga Medical System in ways that will serve us well long after the pandemic is over. We found new ways to communicate about some of our most important decisions, holding multiple town halls online that drew thousands of participants and let us have enormously important conversations as we made plans for this year like no other at Cornell. These town halls let us share our data and our modeling. They let us listen to the concerns of our community, both within Cornell and in the broader Ithaca area. And in the end, they helped us have a safe and healthy reopening. As awful as 2020 was, with all of the pain and the loss that the world has experienced, everything we lost in 2020 made us cherish what we had, and it pushed us to build on it. It showed us how important our community and our connections with our community are to us as human beings. And it's shown us what we can achieve when we work together, when we take care of each other, and when we put kindness first. United Way for years has been showing us just that. And I am so grateful to have United Way doing such important work and giving us a way to care for each other in ordinary times and in unprecedented ones.
Hello, everyone. The story I want to share is about how incredible you all were last year and how in awe of and proud of I am of this community. That was my most compelling story of 2020. Even in the midst of so much adversity, what stood out to me was love, perseverance, leadership, community, and hope. I watched public officials and community leaders work tirelessly to manage something for which they had no playbook, no instructions, and no clear answers. These leaders mobilized resources, responded to concerns, revised budgets, and collaborated with partners, all of which will continue to be key to navigate this crisis moving forward. I'm so grateful to the healthcare heroes and first responders. Whether it was watching in tears as the Cayuga Health System team piled on Cornell buses to New York City, or seeing your leaders create and implement plans that rendered our community among the most prepared in the nation, or the first responders who ensured that services weren't disrupted. I remain in awe of all that you have done to protect, treat, and now help vaccinate our community. I was impressed by the mask makers and donors, from the So Many group to the county and CMC effort at Cornell to the Tompkins mask makers. Thousands of hours of work provided a new product seemingly overnight. People donated fabrics, supplies, sewing machines, and even lunch. Thousands received the masks so that they could move about our community safely and to protect one another. I am grateful for our essential workers, the grocery clerks and pharmacists, utility workers and commercial cleaners, food delivery and bus drivers, restaurant cooks, and hotel managers. There are so many jobs that were essential to keep our community functional and can't be done remotely. Thank you to those of you who showed up and kept working hard to serve your neighbors during this most difficult time. So many area businesses were the picture of resilience, but what stood out most was manufacturers making PPE, hand sanitizer, and even creating rapid testing technology practically overnight. I watched restaurants, caterers, retailers, and others reinvent their businesses, offering new products, shifting to online ordering, pickup and delivery to serve their customers, to keep people employed, and to sustain their businesses. Meanwhile, numerous organizations and financial institutions scrambled to educate, support, and provide the critical funding that businesses would need to survive this crisis. To the teachers and administrators who scrambled to educate remotely while their hearts broke for their kids who needed to be in school, food service staff and transportation workers prepared and delivered meals, technology, and schoolwork, to the students who kept up with their studies, and to the thousands of parents juggling school, work, and COVID concerns. You've all done an amazing job. It really does take a village, and thank goodness for ours. The nonprofit organizations that rose to the occasion. There are so many that did incredible work this year, but a few that stand out are the funders, including the United Way, Community Foundation, and others who mobilized our financial resources as a community to meet basic needs, childcare providers and the Child Development Council, and entities like FoodNet Meals on Wheels, Food Bank, and area pantries who helped keep people fed. I'm grateful to our area colleges and their students. Were it not for their thoughtful decisions, coordinated responses, and support, our 2020 story could have been very different. I'm so grateful for the personal responsibility that most students exhibited to keep their semester intact and to protect our community. Tremendous accomplishments that also helped to reduce the economic impacts of the pandemic and provide a template for how this can be done effectively. To the volunteers, the helpers, and the donors, without your time and resources, the rides you gave, the food you cooked, the mentorship you provided, the money you donated, or maybe even coming out of retirement and going back to work, we would not be where we are today. I know there are so many thousands of people in Ithaca and Tompkins County who were served by your generosity. And finally, to the ones who bravely battled COVID and the ones who lost a loved one, I'm so sorry that despite our best efforts, you were not able to be protected from feeling this pain. I know that we are all holding you close, and whatever you need only ask, and this community will take care of you. And what I want to leave you all with now is hope. I hope that we continue to have the same care for one another to get through this next phase of the pandemic, to achieve broad community-wide immunization and welcome the return of normal economic activity to sustain area families, employers, and our communities. I hope that we remember all that we've learned about ourselves, our ability to collaborate, and to problem solve as a community. This story is about all of you, and I want to thank you. You've done incredible things in the most difficult of circumstances. Your love, perseverance, leadership, and community is the most compelling part of my 2020 story. Thank you.
On behalf of the United Way board and staff, I thank Gary Stewart for sharing his vision for this event and then working to make it a reality. To all who shared their compelling stories, thank you for your leadership and generosity. Your words and actions have made this special event and our local community stronger. Thanks to the Cancer Resource Center for their support and green light to proceed with today's program. As many of you know, the Cancer Resource Center has hosted the very successful One Funny Ithaca Story for many years. One Funny Ithaca Story is also a program designed and produced by Gary Stewart, and one of the many ways he gives back to our community. Due to the pandemic, One Funny Ithaca Story is currently on hold, and we look forward to gathering together for its return in 2021. To our audience and all who view the recorded program at a later date, thank you. And a special thank you to all who are contributing to the United Way Community Care Fund through this event. 100% of all contributions today and throughout the year will be invested in local programs and services that strengthen lives, offer hope, and care through United Way funded partners. United Way funded partners work to meet the human and healthcare needs of local residents at every stage of life, every day of the year. They do this important work with caring, dignity, and effectiveness. During this pandemic and economic disruption, they have innovated, managed, and created new systems for meeting the needs of local residents, often with fewer human and material resources. It is a privilege for our United Way to raise and invest funds in these important programs and work. I hope our program, One Compelling Ithaca Story, has contributed to you having an enjoyable Sunday and a safe and productive 2021. 2020 is behind us, and there's a lot of runway ahead of us in 21. All at UWTC look forward to being your partner in strengthening lives and local communities. Thank you.